Hi, and welcome in the lecture about the Python and the Python connected with the creating geometry in Dynamo. So what we'll do during this course is that we will be doing a similar things which we have been doing on the previous session, but with geometry. So I'm opening the Dynamo and I am, of course, or maybe let's try first to create a very basic thing, a point. So what I will do, I will go into the code block first. And do you remember when I was typing like, um, sorry, point dot by coordinates, and then I was learning you how to use design script syntax in code block. Then similar operation you can create with the Python. Let's try to do it. I will type Python script. And then I'm going inside to the Python script. And I would like to create exactly the same thing. So creating a point. So now let's see. I will go into the place your code below. So I will try to type point dot by coordinates 000. Remember to not add the semicolon at the end because this is not design script syntax. And I will say pt equal to point by coordinates out pt. If I will click save and run and I will add the watch option here, I will see that I created my point. I can so this code block and this Python script syntax generating exactly the same point. So let's change this one in the Python to see it on the screen. So I created a point. So generally the operations which you can do with the design script syntax inside the code block, you can generally very easily recreate inside of the Python script. For doing it, this is responsible. So from autodesk.designscript.geometry, import everything. If I would take it out, unfortunately this one will not work. So this import is responsible for the geometry. So if somehow you lost it, or uh, mm, speaking it from the different side, if you would like to use your Autodesk design script to create some geometry in the different platform, like for example in Conda environment with Python, you can import Autodesk design script.geometry in your platform, and with this library it should work. Okay, so we know how to create the geometry, the point. So let's try to create a line. I would just take away the code block. I don't need it anymore. And what I would like to create is I would like to create 2 points, which then later will create a line. We already have been doing it several times during the course with design script, so I hope there will not be a problem. I don't have to explain so much, but generally we need 2 points based on which we will create a line. So first point, of course, they should not be coincidence, so they should be with some distance from each other. So the second point will be 10 units on the x direction farther than the first one. And let's see, PT1, PT2, I want to get out, so I will put it into the list. I will click save and run, and I have my 2 points. Okay, so the points has been created. There is no problem about it. And then the line. I will type L maybe for the line. I will type line dot by, let's say, by start point, end point. This is the one which I'm looking for because I have 2 points. So yeah, this is maybe the most obvious thing to do. PT1, comma PT2 in the parentheses and clicking save and run. I don't see it, but if I will add it to my list, and you remember that the list in Python can cover different data types, not just one single data type, as it is in many programming languages before. So we have the line, we have 2 points, we create our first geometrical objects. So now, how to deal with the more advanced stuff? So let's say that I would like to, for example, create a set of the lines based on the grid of points. So let's, on the beginning, maybe just, let's do it in the separate file. So we will make it step by step. So this was how you can generally create primitive geometry. I will just take it out. I will add Python script. And let's say that I would like to control the grid by 2 sliders. So I will type number slider, or sorry, integer slider I will take. I could create from, and I will this one called x number of points. This will go into in 0, and this will be y number of points, and this will be the second one. I will just maybe make it from 2 to 20. This one will be also from 2 to 20. But of course, it can be always changed. So I want to have it from 2 to 20. Okay, I am double clicking. And what I will do now, I will focus only on my Python script. So I would like to create a grid of points. So how I can do it? Obviously, one of the easiest thing would be, for example, to use the loop. So, for example, I could type for ix in range, let it be 10, colon. I could say pt equal to point dot by coordinates ix 0, 0. Sorry, no semicolon. Then I need some container for those points because I want to preview them. So I will type pts equal to empty list and pts append my pt. So this one will not solve the final task, but this is how we can generally create a set of points. So now how to connect this number of points to be controlling how many points I have. Obviously, or if it's not obviously, sorry, maybe I'm using this word too often, but we could say number x equal to in 0. So this number x, it's going into the place of 10. And let's see, when I'm changing it, I'm controlling the number of points. Okay, so this is first loop which I created to create the points. The question is now how to create the grid of points. Maybe you already figured it out because we need to create a loop in a loop. So for iy in range number y, which we don't have yet, colon, and then here in this place we will create our point iy, and the number y we have to specify. So number y is equal to in 1. So if I will click save and run, now you see I can control the points in both directions. But the thing which I am mentioning from the beginning of this course, at least from the Dynamo parametric modeling, it's about the data format. So let's take a look what is the data format of our list of the points. Let's connect it with the watch, for example. And what we can see is that this is one long list. So remember when we were using, for example, polyline to connect, for example, the beams in one directions and so on. Right now, if I will use like polycurve or something by points, he will just connect every point next to each other. So he As you can see, create, he goes through all of the points in this list. So in this case, I would like to have a list in the list to be able to just create the lines in the one direction and maybe then flip it to create the beams in the second direction. I am saying beams, but I'm thinking about lines because I'm just already thinking how the structure could look like. So how to do it? First, again, we have to format our points. So if we will do it like this and add these points in every iteration of the internal loop. So this is internal loop. Let's call it maybe like this. Internal loop. And this is outer loop. So if I will be adding those points in internal loop, then I will still have the same issue. So one of the solutions which I could propose would be to create an extra list of the elements which will be gathering those points on the level of the outer loop. So here I should create like internal PTS, let's call it like this. And then those internal points I would like to gather here. Internal points are adding the points in the internal loop. So when he is going outside of this loop, so he add enough points in the y direction, he goes out of the loop and he create a new loop. So the previous one is lost. So the thing is that right now, if I will type points and append internal points, he will add their already filled list. So let's try. And as you can see right now, the data format, let's see the watch. And let's make much less elements. Like let's 2 by 3. So we have two lists with 3 points. So previously we have one long list. Right now the internal loop is taking y number of points, so 3 points in the y direction he's putting in the list. Then he's finishing internal first outer iteration. So he recreates completely new internal points list and going through adding the points again. So if I will increase the number of the outer loop, which is controlled by the x number, then I will have more and more smaller loops in my loop. But if I will increase this one, the number of the elements in the loop will start to increase. Okay, so this is how you could do it with the with creating a points. So now how to create something more more interesting. Let's try now to, based on those points, create the columns up. So I would like to have in every of this point a line, which is vertical line with the dimension of 3. So let's try to do it. First, clean the code a little bit. And what we want to do, we want to have lines, or I will call it lines vertical. Maybe it's too long. Lines V. Too much writing. And generally, if you're thinking about the names, generally it's a good habit to always create those names which are meaning something, but they are also not too long. So okay, we have lines which are completely. We would like to make them completely vertical. So how to go through every point in the list and create a line. So let's try. Lines V will be responsible for that. So I need to have something which will be reading the loop. So for IP, so point, IP in, and then we have to figure out how to create the loop over the points which are a loop in the loop. So how to do it? For IP in PTS, LAN PTS, sorry, range LAN PTS. Of course, I could use number X, but I just want to assume that I don't know. So if I would like to create a, or yeah, let's do it maybe in such a way. So this is one Python script. Right now, I have to create another Python script, which will be taking those points, and we'll be creating the lines, vertical lines here. Maybe this will be a little bit more understandable. And so on. So let's make it as a second part of this session. Okay. So in this part, as I was saying from the previous one, we will make the Python script for creating a vertical lines. I'm going inside, and to not waste your time, I'll just quickly start to code. So this PTS, it's now in from 0. Remember that I am working on this Python script, so I already have the data. And I also know um, this is a list in a list of points, something like that. So now I would like to loop over all of the points inside and get the points and the lines inside there. So let's try to do maybe something like this first. Because it is quite the easiest thing. Let's first start from the easiest thing, and then we will start to complicate it. So for IPTE in PTS, so I'm going through every element in my list, so every point. And I don't care about the data format of it. So I don't care about the data format of the input here. So he will probably go through every point in this list. And of course, I need to have the vertical lines. So lines V, let's make it like this. And let's create a line. So line dot, and then this time I will start with the start point and direction length. So the starting point should be IPT. Okay, IPT, comma, then the starting point and the direction length, the direction length, it's probably the vector, so I need to create a vector. Maybe let's do it before. So here, since there will be just one vector for all of the points, so I will create it in front right now. Vector 3D, I think it was called. Let me remember myself. No, it's just vector. By 2 points, by coordinates. It's better for me. So I will make it 0, 0, 3. So 3 in the vertical direction, and I will call it V. So length by start point direction and length. So V. Let's see if it will work. Then I have a problem because probably line by start point direction will need also the length. So here I again have to type 3. So here it could be just a vertical unitized vector, and we have the line. So VL equal to my line by start point by start point direction length. And the next thing which I need is lines V append VL. I'll just click save and run. I will see what problem he has. Line 16. What he see here that we have an Autodesk design script geometry vector. Instead of having a point, he has a string. So let's try to fix that. So one of the problem which he has here in the description, but also very important for me, is to able to learn you how you can read those. That generally in the line 16 we have a class list, and generally he's not able to do it because he treats this IPT. It should be a point, but what he get of course the list of points. So for example, if I would like to say that go for IPT in PTS0, which this will be the list of points, and I will click save run, he should work. So then probably lines V, he will create the lines in the first row of the points. So this code is running. The problem is this code. We would like to work not on the we would like to loop from through all of the points, not just the points in one row. But if I will take it out, he is going through every element, and this element in this case is the whole list, so he's not able to run it. So now how to solve it? So for example, as we could for example create another loop for um, for uh, row points or row in PTS length. So range length PTS. Let's try to see this one. So now I'm going through row. This will be the number. Let's extrude a little bit the code. I'll click save and run, and then the row PTs. Let's try this row here. So now I go through all of the rows, length PTS. Let's try what is the length PTS. I was showing it also on the previous session how to make it with without the geometry. So I would like to now type watch. So we have 4. So probably if I will start to change this one, we will have connected it here. So now we know how many rows we have. So the row number is the row. It's going into the PTS row, and then it's fulfilling the data with the elements. So now lines V, I will click save and draw. It should be one long list of all of the lines which are creating the columns. But again, I would like to have them in a different data format. I would like them as the list in the list to still have the possibility to work on the specific row of the objects. So how we can do with it? It's again using outer and inner loop. So in the outer loop, I will create something which will be containing lines row, for example, equal to empty, and lines row will be this one, which will be appending the VL. And then I'm going back to the outer position, and I'm just saying lines V, append lines row. Let's see. Then I have again them. Let's see, I will create another watch. So I have points and I have corresponding to its lines. So if I will start to create this bigger or smaller, this will affect on those two data. Okay, that's fine. Last thing, let's try to create another Python script just to make a grid of the beams on the top of this grid of the points. So let's try to make it in the next session. Okay, We are back on coding. This time I want to use this list in a list of the points. I would like to take the endpoints of those elements and create a horizontal lines connected in both directions to it. So again, I want to learn you how to use the inputs and outputs and how to create a different data format. So I will use another Python script. I will connect it to my um, um, to the new Python script, and I will focus on this one. Double left click on the Python script. Let's try to extend the window to make it as comfortable for me and you. And now what is in 0? It's the list in a list of lines. So lines. Okay, so how I can read the endpoint of the line? So a good question. I would like to check it first in my code block. So I will type line dot. Let's see if I have something like the endpoint, and it should be endpoint. So I want to use this one. So now let's take it out first. So for ex, I will say in range, and here this is the length of lines. I will use exactly the same semantic, so I will use the row for line in lines at specific row. I would like to take EPTS. So EPTS append line dot endpoint. Let's see if it's working. No errors. So finger crossed. Maybe we'll make it first time. So I have my endpoints here. So if I will take the watch, because always I want, like, this is not a very difficult task. I could do it in one line of the code or in one Python script, not in the one line, and this is impossible in Python. But I want to see the data format. So we see that this is more like a flattened list. So something, you remember when we have been doing it with the visual programming, I was sometimes referencing to flattening. So every elements in the list are just in the one vector, in one single list. It's not a list in the list. So unfortunately, again, keeping to this data format, we will not be able to easily create the vertical beams. So what I have to do, I have to create it in a little bit different way. So I would say, for example, e points x, e points can stay, but I want to have it in the outer loop, epts x, and epts x are here, epts append epts x. Okay, let's try. Let's click save, and we have a correct data format. Right now we are very easily able to create the points in one direction and the second direction. Okay, so let's try to create the lines or the polylines. So what we can do, first I will just quickly go into the code block and see what kind of options we have. We have a poly curve. Let's take a look on it, and we can do it by points, and then the only thing which is missing it's the number of points and the information true or false, it should be closed or not. In our case, it should not be closed because we don't want to create any closed format. We have been using closed when we were using, for example, the cross sections for creating lofting, but this now we will just use polycurve by the specific list of objects. And take a look right now how easy it will be with Python, because if we will sort or if we will create the specific data format already correctly, so I just need to take this list of the points into polycurve by points. So I will type polycurve by points, and then I will just give him EPTS X, and I will call it, for example, PLCS append, and then I just need to create an empty list for it. So this will be containing all of the polycurves. The polycurves are created here. And one last thing, I forget, I have to add false. I don't want to close it. So if I will click save and run, no errors, and this meaning that we maybe will manage to make it again with the first shot. And we have our polycurves in the specific direction. So we get to the result, which is satisfying me. But the problem will be how to make them. You remember when we were flipping or transposing the matrix? So we have to now think about it. But let's leave it for the second part of the creating, working with the coding in Python. I think it's enough for right now. And let's see each other in the next session. Okay, and the last part of this session. So we need to make the beams in the second direction. Let's try to make it. Maybe I will show you one way and I will just discuss the second. So the first way is that we have already know how to create the list of points, but let's work on the little bit simpler case to see how we can reverse the matrix or transpose the matrix. First things first, let's type Python script and let's create, or maybe we will do it right now, everything in Python script. So what I would like to do, I would like to create some numbers in two level of the list, so two leveled list. So let's make it that for x in range 4, for iy in range 3. I would like to now create a list x, list x append I y. List append list x. Okay, we have it. We make it very easy right now. I will see how the data format looks like. So we have 0, 1, 2 in 4 lists. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. If I will create 5 of them, I will have obviously 5 of them. Okay, so now how I can flip those elements. So right now I have 0, 1, 2 in 5 lists. So 3 elements in 5 lists. Now I would like to have 5 elements in 3 lists. So I can how I can work with this list. So the first thing what I will try to do is that I will just use the ranges and get into the data. So let's try like this. For EX1 in range 5, or let's give him here 3. For EY1 in range 5. Now, I would like to get into this list. So I would like to create an list 1. Let's say list x1 equal to empty list. And I would like to say list x1 append e1 1 list 1 append list x1. So let's see list 1, how does it look? So right now I have 3 lists and 5 objects inside. But how? Because right now I was just using this dummy data ix1. Let's use the zeros. So I already have a correct data format. But how to put here the elements from the list 1 in the proper way? So the thing is that here in this place I can say list, because this is the first list. I can say um, that I would like to now have here the list from the ix1 and the i11. So, sorry, let's take a look here. I make it sorry, opposite, because the first it's the we are appending the list, so this should be the in the opposite direction. So we see that we have correctly flip the matrix with this with this way of changing the data. So if I will show it, list, comma, it will be a little bit difficult. It would be nice to have the possibility to add two outputs, but let it be. So in the list, we have to compare list 0 and list 1, or we can just use a code block and say A0 and A1, just semicolon. And let's take a look on this watch now. This is the first one. And this is the second one. Let's use maybe instead of 5, 2. So here we have 3 elements in 2 lists. Here we have 3 lists and 2 elements inside, and they are flipped. So the flipping we are solving, or the transposing of the matrix we are just solving, but by rotating the matrix. So now you have the method. I will not show you correctly how to apply it with the beams, with the points, because this is your assignment for this week. But you can use generally this method to flip the matrix. Yeah, so it should be easy peasy.